My wealthy father laughed in court, because I had no lawyer until I placed one red binder on the judge's bench and wiped the smirk off his face. You don't even have a lawyer. You're bringing a plastic knife to a gunfight. My father stood in the courthouse hallway, laughing loud enough for everyone to hear. Richard Dawson, real estate mogul, flanked by his $500 attorney Maxwell Sterling, a man whose name appeared on billboards across 3 states. I was 32, wearing a Goodwill blazer that didn't quite fit, hands shaking so bad I had to shove them in my pockets. Look at him, my father announced to the dozen people waiting for their cases. Works at Starbucks, can't afford legal counsel. This whole lawsuit is a joke. Sterling smiled, the kind of smile that cost extra. Your father is generous enough to forgive court costs if you drop this now, Michael. I don't want his generosity, I said, surprised my voice didn't crack. I want my life back. My father stepped closer, invading my space. His expensive cologne, something Italian I couldn't pronounce, made me want to be sick. You're ungrateful, he said quietly, but loud enough for the gallery. I built an empire for this family and you sue me? The judge is going to laugh you out of there, and I'm going to enjoy watching it. The bailiff called us in. My father winked at me, cruel and slow. Showtime, kiddo. Try not to cry. 6 months earlier, I'd been holding my mother's hand when she took her last breath. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months from diagnosis to hospice. She was 59. Dad didn't come to the hospital that final week. Too busy closing a deal in Phoenix, he said. Mom squeezed my hand when I told her, nodded like she'd expected it, and asked me to read her favorite poem one more time. I read Frost. The Road Not Taken. She smiled and closed her eyes. At 2:15 p.m. on August 12, 2021, Dr. Patricia Vance declared Eleanor Dawson deceased. I signed the certificate with a pen that kept skipping. My hand was shaking so hard the signature looked like a child's. I called my father from the hallway. She's gone, I said. I'll be back tomorrow for arrangements, he replied. Did she say anything at the end? She said she loved us. Good, that's good. Listen, Michael, we need to talk about the estate. Your grandmother's trust. Dad, Mom just... I know. We'll talk tomorrow. I'm sorry, son. He hung up. I sat in that hospital hallway for 2 hours, watching nurses change shifts, listening to codes being called over the intercom. I thought about how my mother used to make Sunday pancakes, how she'd taught me to drive in the Safeway parking lot, how she'd always defended my choice to study literature instead of business, even though it disappointed my father. I thought about how she'd been alone in that hospital room for days because my father was too busy. I didn't know it yet, but while I was signing her death certificate, my father was signing something too. The funeral was tasteful, expensive. My father spared no expense when appearances mattered. 200 people came, business associates mostly. My father gave a eulogy about what an amazing woman Eleanor had been, how she'd supported his success, how proud she was of what they'd built together. I watched from the front pew and wondered if we were talking about the same person. My mom had worked as a pediatric nurse for 30 years. She drove a 2008 Toyota Camry with a dented bumper because she'd rather donate to the children's hospital than buy a new car. She volunteered at the food bank every Saturday. Dad made it sound like she'd spent her life attending charity galas and playing tennis at the country club. After the service, relatives I barely knew offered condolences. My father's business partner, Gerald Preston, shook my hand and told me I had my mother's eyes. My grandmother, Mom's mother, pulled me aside. Your mother left you something, Grandma Diane whispered. She was 83, sharp as a tack, fierce as a wolverine. The house. She wanted you to have it. The house? The one you grew up in. It's in her will. Your father can't touch it. I nodded, numb. The house was a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing compared to my father's penthouse on Lakeshore Drive, but it had been home. There's also the trust, she continued. Your grandfather left you $65,000 when he passed. Your mother kept it separate, in your name, for emergencies, for your future. I didn't know that. Your father didn't want you to know, but your mother insisted. She made me promise to tell you after. Her voice cracked. After. She hugged me, smelling like lavender and old paper, and pressed a key into my hand. The house is yours. Don't let him take it. 3 weeks later, I tried to access my trust account. I was sitting in a Chase Bank branch on a Tuesday morning, talking to a personal banker named Trevor Kowalski. Young guy, maybe 25, enthusiastic about compound interest. So you're saying the account is empty? I asked. Trevor adjusted his glasses. Not empty. Closed. On August 12th, transferred to Dawson Construction Holdings as part of an estate settlement. My stomach dropped. August 12th? That was the day my mother died. Yes, I see that here. I'm very sorry for your loss. Trevor looked genuinely uncomfortable. The transfer was authorized by Richard Dawson as executor and legal guardian of estate assets. I'm 32. I don't have a legal guardian. Well, as co-signer on the trust and executor of your mother's estate, he wasn't a co-signer. My grandmother set that account up. Only my name was on it. Trevor pulled up more screens. Clicked. Frowned. There's a signature here. Yours. Dated August 12th at 2:15 p.m. authorizing the transfer. The room tilted. I was signing my mother's death certificate at 2:15 p.m. I said slowly. At County General Hospital, 23 miles from here. Trevor's face went pale. Oh, can I see the signature? He turned the screen. The signature looked like mine. Almost. The M was wrong. The loop on the L too wide, but close enough that a banker wouldn't question it. I need copies of everything. I said. Every transfer, every signature, every document. I'll need to submit a formal request. Trevor, someone stole $65,000 from me using my dead mother's final moments as cover. I need those documents. He printed them. That night, I sat in my studio apartment, a shoebox in a bad neighborhood I could barely afford on a Starbucks salary, and looked at the papers. 17 pages, transfers, signatures, authorizations, all dated August 12th, all signed in my name, all completely fraudulent. I called my father. Michael, how are you holding up? Dad, did you transfer money from my trust account? Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Chase Bank, August 12th, $65,000. Oh, that. Yes. I consolidated estate assets. Standard procedure. Your mother's lawyer recommended it. It wasn't part of her estate. It was my money. Michael, you're not thinking clearly. You're grieving. These are complex financial matters. I'm protecting your interests. By stealing my money? Stealing? His voice sharpened. You ungrateful little. I paid for your education. I've supported you your entire life. This family's wealth exists because of my work. That money is better invested in the business than sitting in some account collecting dust. It's not your money. Everything in this family is my money. You think you earned any of this? You work at Starbucks, for God's sake. You're 32 years old making minimum wage. I'm doing you a favor. I want it back. Then sue me, he laughed. Oh wait, you can't afford a lawyer. He hung up. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone, feeling my face burn. Then I started Googling how to prove identity theft, representing yourself in court, fraud family member. I dove in. The deeper I looked, the worse it got. Credit cards, 17 of them, opened between 2019 and 2022, all in my name, all with charges I never made. Nordstrom, $4,200. Ritz-Carlton stays, $8,900. Caesar's Palace, $12,400. When I pulled my credit report, my score was 420. 420. I'd been denied for a car loan 6 months ago and couldn't figure out why. Now I knew. I called the credit card companies. Every single application had been submitted from the same IP address, 4400 Lakeshore Drive, Unit 48B, my father's penthouse. I hadn't lived there in 10 years. I contacted a fraud investigator. Her name was Simone Reeves, and she worked independently after retiring from the FBI's white-collar crime division. I found her through a forum for identity theft victims. Her consultation fee was $200. I put it on the one credit card I still had. We met at a Denny's. She was mid-50s, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen every con in the book. Your father is good, she said, reviewing my documents. Not great. The photocopy error on the deed transfer is sloppy, but good enough that most people wouldn't catch it. Can I prove it? In court? Maybe. You'd need a forensic accountant, a handwriting expert, IP documentation from all the banks and credit companies. You're looking at $30,000 in expert witness fees alone. My chest tightened. I make $14.50 an hour. I know. She pushed the papers back. Here's the truth, Michael. Your father is rich. Rich people don't go to jail for this. They settle. They make it go away. You need a lawyer who can scare him into giving the money back. How much would that cost? A good attorney? $15,000 retainer minimum. I left Denny's and sat in my car, a 2004 Honda Civic with a cracked windshield, and cried for the first time since Mom's funeral. But I didn't give up. I spent 3 months gathering evidence. Every night after work, I'd come home and dive into documents. I printed bank statements. I requested records. I filed Freedom of Information requests for IP logs. I contacted a handwriting expert named Dr. Raymond Chen. Wait, I need a different name per the user's request. I contacted a handwriting expert named Dr. Lawrence Pritchard, a retired forensic specialist who analyzed signatures for law enforcement. He charged $500 to compare the signatures on my trust transfer to my actual signature. His report concluded, high probability of forgery, letter formation inconsistent with authenticated samples. I contacted every bank, every credit card company, every institution my father had scammed using my name. I asked for timestamps, IP addresses, surveillance footage from branches. Most places ignored me. Some sent automated responses. A few actually helped. The branch manager at Chase, a woman named Carolyn Hughes, quietly sent me certified copies of every transaction. She included a note. This isn't right. Good luck. I got IP logs showing that every fraudulent application came from my father's address. I got time-stamped security footage from a Best Buy credit application. Timestamp showed 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. My work schedule showed I was at Starbucks from 2:10 p.m. that day. I collected it all, organized it, color-coded it. I built my case one page at a time. Then I found the smoking gun. I'd requested copies of all property transfers involving my childhood home. My mother's will left it to me, clear as day. But somehow, the title had been transferred to my father for 1.0 as collateral for a construction loan I never took out. The deed transfer document arrived 3 weeks after I requested it. Poor quality photocopy, faded in places, but photocopies don't lie the way people do. In the margin, barely visible, was a handwritten note that hadn't been cropped out before copying. Forged Michael's signature. He's too stupid to check the registry. If he asks, tell him it's for tax purposes. He trusts family. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I called a lawyer. You can't afford me, said attorney Nathan Cross when I explained my situation. His office was downtown, glass glass and steel, views of the river. I know, I said, but I need to know if I have a case. He reviewed my evidence for 20 minutes, didn't say a word, just read, occasionally making notes. Finally, this is airtight. I mean, genuinely airtight. The margin note alone is a prosecutor's dream. Your father basically confessed in writing, so you'll take my case. No, he leaned back, because you don't need me. You need a law firm with resources to take on Richard Dawson, and those firms charge $50,000 retainers. But here's the thing, you don't need a lawyer at all. What? The evidence speaks for itself. You could represent yourself and win. The judge just needs to see this. He tapped the deed transfer. Everything else is just confirmation. You've done the hard part, but my father has Maxwell Sterling. I'll get crushed. Nathan smiled. Sterling is a corporate attorney. He does contracts and real estate deals. He's never tried a fraud case, and your father is overconfident. That's your advantage. He thinks you're going to fold. What if I don't know what to do? Tell the truth. Show the evidence. Let the judge do the rest. He slid the documents back. Listen, I'm not supposed to coach you without a retainer, but here's some free advice. Stay calm. Don't get emotional. Just present facts. And for God's sake, organize everything. Judges love organized plaintiffs. I left his office with something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. I bought a 4-inch red binder from Staples. Heavy duty, the kind that makes a satisfying thud when you set it down. I organized every piece of evidence. Color-coded tabs, chronological order, each document in a plastic sleeve with printed labels. Tab 1, trust transfer, mother's death certificate. Tab 2, credit card fraud, IP logs. Tab 3, work schedules, alibi documentation. Tab 4, handwriting analysis. Tab 5, deed transfer, margin note. Tab 6, certified bank records. Tab 7, expert witness reports. I made 3 copies, one for me, one for the court, one backup. I filed the lawsuit myself. Dawson Veers Dawson, $240,000 in damages, criminal fraud, identity theft, embezzlement. The filing fee was $350. I paid it with my last paycheck. My father's response came 2 weeks later via Maxwell Sterling's office. A letter, 4 pages, fancy letterhead. It said I was delusional, that I was bitter about my failed life, that this was a transparent money grab, that they would seek sanctions against me for filing a frivolous lawsuit. The hearing was set for November 18th. Judge Elena Rodriguez presiding. I requested 2 days off from Starbucks. My manager, Lisa, pulled me aside. You're suing your father? I'd told her pieces of the story. Not everything. Yeah, good, she said. He sounds like a piece of work. She approved my time off and threw in an extra shift to help me cover costs. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. What if the judge didn't believe me? What if my evidence wasn't enough? What if Sterling found some legal loophole? What if my father was right, that I was too poor, too stupid, too broken to win? I got up at 3 a.m. and reviewed the binder one more time. Every page, every tab, every document, it was all there. The truth, undeniable. I just had to make sure the judge saw it, which brought me to the courthouse hallway at 9:47 a.m., wearing a blazer from Goodwill, watching my father laugh at me. Inside, I sat alone at the plaintiff's table. My father and Sterling sat up across from me, laptops, leather binders, looking like they owned the place. I looked like I'd walked into the wrong room. Judge Elena Rodriguez entered, mid-50s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She'd been a prosecutor for 20 years before taking the bench. Dawson versus Dawson, she read. Mr. Dawson, I see you're self-represented. Is your counsel running late? I stood. My knees felt weak. No, Your Honor. I'm representing myself. Ha! My father leaned back in his chair, laughing for the whole courtroom to hear. Your Honor, he's too poor to afford a lawyer. He works at a coffee shop. This whole thing is a desperate bid for money. Total waste of the court's time, people murmured. Some laughed. I was exactly what he said. A loser son trying to mooch off his successful father. The judge's voice cut through the noise. Mr. Dawson, you will remain silent until addressed. My father smirked, unbothered. He whispered to Sterling, and they both chuckled. Mr. Dawson, the judge turned to me. Representing yourself in a financial fraud case is highly inadvisable. Do you understand you're accusing a prominent businessman of identity theft and embezzlement? I understand, Your Honor. Do you have evidence? Real, admissible evidence? My father leaned to Sterling. He has a diary. Watch. He's going to read a poem about how I didn't hug him enough. The gallery laughed. I reached into my bag. I didn't pull out a diary. I pulled out the 4-inch thick red binder. Thud. The sound echoed like a body hitting the floor. My father's smile faltered. Yes, Your Honor, I said clearly. I have evidence, and it's undeniable. The judge examined the binder. I watched her flip through the tabs, her expression neutral but focused. Tab 1, Your Honor, I said. My voice was steady now, rehearsed. She flipped it open. Certified record from Chase Bank, August 12th, 2021, the day my mother died, I said. While I was at County General Hospital holding her hand, $65,000 was transferred from my grandmother's trust, in my name, into Dawson Construction Holdings. My father stiffened. The signature is dated 2:15 p.m. At 2:15 p.m., I was signing my mother's death certificate. The judge looked at the signature, then the death certificate, then my father. Mr. Dawson, is this your handwriting? My father tugged his collar. As executor, I moved funds to protect assets. To a personal business account, the judge flipped pages. Tab 2. 17 credit cards opened in my name between 2019 and 2022, I said. I didn't know they existed until I applied for a car loan. Credit score of 420. The judge read the statements. Nordstrom, Ritz-Carlton, Caesar's Palace. She looked up. Were you in Las Vegas New Year's Eve 2022? No, Your Honor. Working a double shift at Starbucks. Time card attached. My father's face lost color. The smirk was gone. Tab 3, I continued. IP logs. Every application submitted from 4400 Lakeshore Drive, Unit 48B, my father's penthouse. I haven't lived there in 10 years. The courtroom murmurs changed from mockery to shock. My father stood, sweating, face blotchy red. This is ridiculous. I paid for his education. Put a roof over his head. I built everything he has. Sit down. The judge slammed her gavel. Sterling put a hand on my father's arm, tried to pull him back into his seat. The judge looked at me. Is there more? Tab 5. The reason we're here. The judge flipped to it. A loan application for remodeling my childhood home, the house my mother left me in her will. He's suing me for $80,000, claiming I defaulted on a loan I never took. The title was transferred to Richard Dawson for 1.0 as collateral, the judge noted, reading the deed. I never signed that deed, but look at the margin, Your Honor. The photocopy caught something. The judge squinted, leaned close. Her face changed. She read aloud, forged Michael's signature. He's too stupid to check the registry. If he asks, tell him it's for tax purposes. He trusts family. Absolute silence. Sterling physically moved his chair away from my father. Your Honor, Sterling said, tightly standing, I need to consult with my client. Sit down, Mr. Sterling. Your Honor, I cannot continue to represent. You can and you will. We're finishing this now. The judge turned to my father. Her gaze was ice. Mr. Dawson, Richard Dawson, you came into my courtroom, laughed at your son, mocked his financial status, a status you engineered by stealing his inheritance, destroying his credit, and liquidating his assets while his mother lay dying. I was investing it for him, my father stammered. He's irresponsible. He doesn't understand business. The only irresponsible behavior I see, the judge said coldly, is grand larceny, identity theft, and fraud. Multiple counts. She turned to me. What are you asking for, Mr. Dawson? I took a breath. All debts cleared. House title restored to my name. Restitution for stolen funds and credit damage. And this file sent to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. My father gasped. Michael, no. I'm your father. You can't. I looked him dead in the eye. You're not a father. You're a thief. The judge granted everything. She signed orders right there. Debt cleared. House restored. Restitution set at $240,000, covering the stolen trust, credit damage, and punitive damages. Then she called the bailiff. Escort Mr. Dawson to holding. I'm holding him in contempt for perjury and referring this to the state's attorney for criminal investigation. 2 officers stepped forward. My father looked at Sterling. Do something! That's what I pay you for! Sterling was already packing his bag. You'll need a criminal defense attorney, Richard. A good one, and I'll be needing my retainer back. All of it. The deputies pulled my father's hands behind his back. Click, click. Handcuffs. The sound was the most satisfying thing I'd ever heard. As they walked him past me, he whimpered, his voice breaking. Michael, please. I'm your dad. We can work this out. Family. Family sticks together. I didn't step back. I didn't look away. I watched him all the way out. 7 months later. The criminal trial took 4 months. I testified for 3 hours. So did the handwriting expert. So did Carolyn Hughes from Chase Bank. So did a forensic accountant who'd traced every fraudulent transaction back to my father's accounts. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Richard Dawson was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for identity theft, wire fraud, and embezzlement. He served 3 before being released on parole. His real estate empire collapsed. Preston bought him out for pennies on the dollar. I sold the penthouse. Donated half to the children's hospital where my mother worked. Kept the rest. The house, my mother's house, I kept. I moved in, painted the walls, fixed the fence, planted a garden. On Sundays, I make pancakes. I think about my father sometimes. Not often. Mostly I think about my mother. About how she'd protected me even from the grave by keeping that trust in my name. By leaving me the house. By making sure I had something he couldn't touch. Almost couldn't touch. He'd laughed because I was poor. Because I worked at Starbucks. Because I couldn't afford a lawyer. But as those handcuffs clicked shut, I realized something I'll never forget. He was the poor one. All he had was money. I had the truth. And in the end, the truth was worth more than everything he'd stolen.